As I was preparing to say something this morning, I started thinking back 50 years ago in the midst of the 60s and 1968, 69. There was a pandemic that ran around the world. There were approximately 1 to 4 million people that were struck by it. Our family was struck particularly by it. All of us, in one sense, were hit with what was then called the sleeping sickness or the Hong Kong flu. And my brother particularly was paralyzed. Now, he came back and was restored through rehab. Meanwhile, the world was full of unrest. Much was generated by the baby boomer generation, of which I was a part. Riots were rampant and National Guards were called for in the United States. One of those famous places was made known in a song called "Four Dead in Ohio," where the National Guards killed 4 students. Youth were also seeing the need for God. The Jesus movement was in full swing. And the call for relationship for God and with others was strong. The structure of the institutional church, meanwhile, was teetering on the edge. A new day was coming. We're looking at another monumental change in our world and in the church. And what have I learned as I've gone through this pandemic time? In many ways, what I've learned is there's nothing new under the sun. I join with biblical writers in assessing the situation. Jeremiah 9:23-24 tells us that we don't live with wealth, power, wisdom. That's not the most important thing. Our priority needs to be knowing God. At the same time, the writer of Ecclesiastes, after having gone through all of the seasons and saying all is weird, vain, he says, what is it that we need? To fear God and to obey his commands. And Jesus reminds us he is the way, the truth, and the life. There's little to be gained by obsessing over daily headlines, restrictions, and fear. There is much to be gained by obsessing over God, doing what pleases him, and seeking to be like Jesus. That's what I've learned.